I destroyed my husband's family dynamics with one simple Ring doorbell clip. I, 32 female, have been married to my husband David, 34 male, for 4 years. David is an incredibly kind, hard-working software engineer who has always suffered from one major flaw. He is the designated doormat for his entire family. His mother, Eleanor, 60 female, and his older brother, Robert, 37 male, have spent decades treating David like a secondary citizen. Robert is the golden child who can do no wrong despite being chronically underemployed and constantly asking for financial bailouts. Eleanor handles the logistics of the family dynamic, ensuring that David always plays second fiddle to Robert's needs. For years, I watched David swallow his pride, hand over money, and accept their insults just to keep the peace. I told him repeatedly that they were exploiting his kindness, but he always defended them, claiming that family looks out for each other. The dynamic reached a boiling point 3 months ago when Robert announced he was starting a digital media consulting firm. He needed a massive injection of capital for high-end video gear, office space, and marketing. Eleanor immediately went to work pressuring David to give Robert a $30,000 investment loan. David didn't have that kind of liquid cash just sitting around outside of our joint housing down payment fund. When David gently told his mother that we couldn't afford to risk our future on an unproven startup, Eleanor threw a massive tantrum. She accused him of being selfish, cold-blooded, and jealous of his brother's potential. She even went as far as orchestrating a family-wide boycott, convincing David's aunts, uncles, and cousins to stop speaking to him. For months, David was completely isolated, feeling immense guilt for simply protecting our financial boundaries. The breakthrough happened last Thursday while David was away on a 3-day corporate retreat in Chicago. I was home alone, working from my laptop in the living room around 2 p.m., when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from our Ring doorbell. I opened the app, expecting a delivery driver. Instead, I saw Eleanor and Robert standing on our front porch. They didn't ring the bell. They were standing near the window, waiting for Robert's girlfriend to pick them up after their car supposedly broke down a few blocks away. They had no idea the Ring camera was active and recording their entire conversation in crystal-clear audio. I sat in absolute silence as I listened to them speak. They weren't just passing the time. They were actively laughing about how easy it was to manipulate David. Robert turned to his mother and said, "I can't believe David actually felt bad about the wedding anniversary dinner we skipped. The guy is so desperate for your approval, it's pathetic." Eleanor chuckled, a sharp, patronizing sound, and replied, "Of course he is. I know exactly how to play him. We'll keep the family ignoring him for another month. Once he's completely miserable and lonely enough, he'll sign over that $30,000 check just to get back into my good graces. He's always been weak, Robert. That money is practically yours already." My blood ran completely cold. They weren't just distant or critical. They were actively plotting a psychological campaign to break my husband's spirit for cash. It was a cold, calculated scam disguised as family drama. I didn't storm out onto the porch to confront them. I knew that if I confronted them alone, they would just lie, claim I fabricated the conversation, and tell David I was trying to drive a wedge between him and his mother. I needed the evidence to do the talking. I waited until they left the porch, downloaded the raw video file directly from the cloud server, and saved 3 backups on independent drives. I didn't send it to David while he was on his trip. I wanted him to focus on his career without the emotional devastation hitting him in a hotel room 40 miles away. Instead, I waited until yesterday evening, when David finally returned home. He looked exhausted, carrying the weight of the ongoing family freeze-out on his shoulders. He sat down at the kitchen island, sighing, and checked his phone to see if his mother had replied to his latest peace-offering text. She hadn't. I walked over, set my laptop down in front of him, and opened the video file. "David, I need you to watch this with an open mind," I said quietly. "You need to see exactly who you are protecting." He hit play. As the audio of his mother calling him pathetic and weak filled the kitchen, I watched David's face completely change. The confusion turned into shock and then into a deep, hollow realization. He watched the clip 3 times in total silence. He didn't cry, and he didn't yell. The illusion he had spent his entire life maintaining, the belief that his mother secretly loved him but just had a difficult way of showing it, evaporated in less than 2 minutes. The raw data of their own words left no room for excuses. "What do you want to do?" I asked him. David looked up at me, his eyes entirely devoid of the usual hesitation. "They want to use the family to isolate me. Fine. Let's see how the family feels about them." David didn't just confront his mother privately, he completely dismantled her position of power within the extended network. He opened the main family group chat on WhatsApp, a chat that included over 30 people, including his grandparents, his wealthy uncles who often funded Robert's lifestyle, and all of his cousins. He didn't type a long, emotional paragraph. He simply uploaded the raw Ring doorbell clip with a single caption. "Since Eleanor and Robert think my desire for my family's approval is pathetic, I am officially removing myself from the equation. Do not contact me or my wife again." The explosion was instantaneous. Within 10 minutes, the group chat became a war zone. David's grandparents, who are deeply traditional and value maternal respect above all else, were absolutely horrified by Eleanor's manipulative behavior. One of David's wealthy uncles, who had previously been on the fence about the drama, immediately texted Robert stating that his upcoming business funding was completely canceled due to his lack of integrity. The cousins began calling out Robert for being a 37-year-old parasite living off his younger brother's guilt. The entire family dynamic collapsed like a house of cards because the truth was dropped right into the center of it. Eleanor's phone calls started flooding in. She called David's phone 20 times in an hour, but he had already blocked her number on his device and on our landline. She then started texting me from a different number, screaming that I was a manipulative snake who had ruined her family, destroyed her relationship with her sons, and exposed private conversations maliciously. She claimed the Ring video was taken out of context and that she was just trying to help Robert build a future. I didn't reply. I simply took a screenshot of her frantic, abusive texts, uploaded them to the same family group chat to prove she hadn't changed, and then blocked the new number. The fallout has been total. Robert's entire consulting startup is dead before its launch because no one in the family is willing to lend him a single dollar after seeing how he talks about his own brother behind closed doors. Eleanor has been completely alienated by her own siblings, who are disgusted by her cruelty toward her youngest son. The absolute control she held over the family narrative is completely gone. She went from being the matriarch dictating terms to an absolute social outcast within her own community. Inside our home, the atmosphere has completely shifted. For the first time in our marriage, David isn't checking his phone with anxiety, hoping for a crumb of validation from people who view him as a resource. He told me last night that he feels an overwhelming sense of relief, like a weight he had been carrying since he was 10 years old has finally been lifted off his chest. We've updated our home security settings, changed our email filters, and are completely focusing on our own future and our own home. Some people might think using a single doorbell clip to blow up an entire family network was disproportionate, but I know it was the only way to save my husband from a lifetime of emotional abuse. They tried to use silence and isolation as a weapon against his mental health, so I used the absolute truth as a shield to protect our peace. The bridges are entirely turned to ash. The parasites have been cleared out, and David is finally free to live his life without looking over his shoulder.